Well, hello friends, and welcome to part 2 of the 57 Esquire. This is the rehab story. So I'm so glad to be able to tell this story finally, and this has just been a lot of fun, and it's been fun because of the people that have helped me out. And I'm just going to go ahead and thank Dan Strain and Ron Ellis. And Valerie Strain, or Valocaster, as she's sometimes called, who also did a lot of loving work on this guitar, and Nick at Joe Glaser's shop. So there were a lot of people involved in rehabbing this guitar, and so that's what this story is. So while we're thinking about it, if you haven't subscribed, then you can go down in the corner and do that. If you've already subscribed, then I appreciate you supporting the show by either going to AskZach.com and you can pick up a t-shirt or a coffee mug, or there's tip jar information in the description of the video. All right, so I left you, with the last episode telling the story of how this guitar was lost in a poker game. So, and of course it had a horrible yellow painted pickguard on it, and it was Krylon blue. And if you want to see the before pictures, go to AskZach.com, and I have some articles on there that have all sorts of detailed photos of the guitar taken apart and also the rehab process. So today I'm going to tell the rehab process. So I bought the guitar on Halloween, which is a Saturday, October 31st on 2020. And the very next day, which was a Sunday, I got the guitar and I went straight to Dan Strain's house, Danocaster. And I've been very fortunate to have him as a friend. He's a great friend and a great guy. I think y'all all know him as a great guitar builder, but he's also a fantastic guy, and his wife Val too. And so I went straight down there, and immediately we started taking the guitar apart, and then we got out the sander and we started sanding it. And Dan said, "Wouldn't it be cool if it was a one-piece body?" And I was like, "Yeah, it would be, but I'm not going to hold my breath." Already the guitar is light. I mean, the whole guitar weighs 6.5 pounds all together, which is light for for any era Telecaster. Anything under 7 pounds is really light. So so we started sanding on it, and he let me sand on it. And you can see in the videos on that I've made that are on AskZach.com of the rehab process. You can see me, and you can see me wearing my Birkenstock sandals, and so I start sanding the finish off, and the blue's coming off really quick because it was put on pretty thin, and in fact you could see grain through some of the blue, and the blue paint starts coming off, and you start seeing this beautiful grain, and I keep looking for a seam, as I'm coming across, and there's not one. And I get all the way to the end, I get all the blue off, and I look, it's a one-piece swamp ash body. I was like, whoa. I couldn't believe it. And so I didn't take all the blue off because I was a little scared, especially going around the edges and around the sides. So Dan was kind enough to step in and help with that. But it was just awesome. And he took measurements on everything, and of course it's 0.91 at the first fret, and it just has a beautiful wear here, which of course the neck is all original. Beautiful original logo on it, the original Kluson tuners that are just worn and rusted in just the perfect way. And you can see this great nice wear on the back of the neck. You can see the neck plate here with the negative, with the dash in front of it, which was kind of very indicative of 57 and part of 58. And even through this blonde, finish, you can see a lot of grain here. And again, there's a bunch of pictures on my website if you want to see, photos. So And again, we metered the pickup, and yeah, it was had no reading, and so he gave me the pickup, and he said, "You're probably going to have that rewound." So I was like, "Ah, dang." So, but I knew I was going to call Ron Ellis and see what could be done. But yeah, after pulling all the blue off, then it was kind of done, and Dan said that they were going to seal it and then finish it in the next couple of weeks. So I took off with the pickup, with this bridge pickup, and I called up Ron Ellis, and I told him that it had no reading on it and was real weak sounding. He said what's happened is, he said, does it have rust on the low E pull piece? I said, yeah, it does. And he said, well, what's happened is that and this just happens with teles, is that whoever was playing the guitar sweated into it. The sweat went down onto the low E pull piece, and then it started forming rust, and then that rust goes down into the windings, and eventually it it starts rusting all through there and breaking it and shorting out. And basically the pickup had terminal cancer, and so at some point it would completely die, but at that point it had all these shorts in it, and that's why it wouldn't meter out, and that's why it sounded the way it did, and the only way to fix it was to rewind it. So I was sad about it, but I knew Ron would do an amazing job, and Ron said he had a stash of old enamel wire that he only used for old rewinds. And so Ron Ellis, first he had to completely clean all the rust off, and then dip it in lacquer, and then he rewound it, and he put the the cloth, the kind of twine around it, and he did an amazing job. And yeah, so thank you to Ron Ellis. So then the pickup came back. So that was that was part of it. And I'll also just mention real quick, this is a Ron Ellis tall neck pickup, which apparently was originally when because Ron had worked with Alan Hamill. Alan Hamill had worked on this design, but this was something where Ron had done some more tweaking to it, and that's why he called it the new tall, which is more stratty sounding. Yeah, and I like that. I like a clearer sounding neck pickup. So then we had the neck. So it had the original frets in there, and they were pretty worn down. Now the guys at Guitar Gallery down in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, they had done a good job of setting up the guitar with the way it was, but I knew it was going to need new frets to really play its best. So I took it down to Joe Glaser's shop, and Nick down there did a refret. And these frets are 95 wide by 47 tall. And that's the standard fret that's what I have like on my 67 Tele. It's what's on my Danocasters. It's kind of like it's kind of like 6105s that are a little bit shorter. And I like that, because I like a bigger fret than a vintage fret, but I don't like some, super tall fret, because I think it kind of messes with the tuning and the intonation when you have the frets and you have to push down that hard. So Nick there did an amazing job on refretting it, and Joe Glaser commented on the neck that he said so many of these are backbowed or twisted, and most of the time you can't do a whole lot with them because the wood's so old, and it's kind of been a neck for so long that it sometimes doesn't really want to straighten out. Sometimes the truss rods won't do anything on them. So I was very lucky in that this had very minimal funny spots on it, and so it was a good neck. So that was the neck. Then we had the the body. So Dan did a sealer coat, and then did Valocaster did some grain filling on here, and then they started putting the color on there, and I wanted it to be the white blonde. I always liked that color. Now I know Vince Gill's guitars earlier, but his was kind of that white blonde look. And then even Red Volkart had a 58 Esquire that, you know, was kind of this white blonde look. And also I remember even seeing like John Hyatt play in the 80s, you know, on Austin City Limits, and he had an old Esquire that was this color, and I just loved the white guard look. So I had originally thought about going black on this guitar, but again, when I saw that it was a one-piece body and the beautiful grain on it, almost felt bad about putting the white blonde on there, but I think it turned out great, and he really let a lot of the grain, you know, come through. So Dan, you know, did the, you know, he painted it up, and then he did the aging on the body so that it would match up with the neck, but he didn't want to go too far, so he kind of, you know, he was, you know, somewhat conservative in his aging, which I appreciated, because, you know, you can always get more aging on the body, but I think it matches up real well, you know, with the all original neck. So, and then I made the decision to go, you know, to make it a Tele, you know, and have a neck pickup. And that was, you know, one, because the original Esquire guard was basically destroyed. We tried a bunch of solvents and wet sanding on it and just couldn't get all the paint off of it. And it was already, this era guard can be really thin, and it was just getting to where it was so flexible, and it was already warped and such. And so finally we just kind of gave up on it, and I kind of wanted to do a neck pickup anyway. And so yes, so we put a neck pickup on here, and these are the original saddles, which amazingly are in tune. So these, the screws aren't bent or anything, but the intonation is fantastic on this thing. I'm just kind of amazed. Again, the original selector switch had to be taken out because it was intermittent, and we tried cleaning it up. The original pots were great. We used one of the, on an Esquire, it has 3 of the caps that are used in a normal, you know, Telecaster wiring. So one of them had been replaced with a black Sprague, like a Black Beauty cap, like out of a Gibson. But the other 2 were original, and so we just picked the one of those that, you know, metered out best, and just, you know, wired it up as a Tele. So regular, you know, 250K pots and the old cap, and just a new, you know, selector switch. And then of course this is the original pickup that's been rewound, and this is the Ron Ellis. And I have to say, I'm just, you know, blown away by the way, you know, this guitar came together, and just the sound of it. You know, I've come to find out that I really like this kind of slightly stagger, where it's just the raised D and G, kind of the first version of the stagger, and steel saddles and maple necks. It's just it's a great combination. I know a lot of people, you know, get crazy about black guards, but and black guards are great, but this is another really cool era of Telecaster. You know, the white guards with the steel saddles and either flat pole pickups or with the raised D and G strings are really, really cool guitars that are a little more twangy, and they're a little more bitey. So here I'll play a touch on the old my old 59 Harvard, which this is a fun, you know, combination to have the 57 Esquire with a 59 Harvard. You know, you have the you know, what I was playing actually on the other video, I kind of played a version of Hideaway. Yeah, nice, you know, both pickup sound. You know. course, the neck, which I was using at the beginning for this type of thing. And just even without verb or delay or anything, I mean, I'm just playing straight into the old amp. It just has a really neat sound. It's not a huge sound, but it's a really cool, focused sound. So, very happy to have this guitar. Yeah, I think something I alluded to in the last episode was, so I had to part with a number of things to get this guitar. So, yeah, again, like I said in the last episode, you know, my wife and I talked about it, and she said, well, as long as you can sell the stuff to pay for it, you can get it. Well, to get a guitar like this, it wasn't like I could just sell one or two things. So I ended up selling two of my Danocasters. I sold my Danocaster Blackguard and my Danocaster Strat, and I sold the JV, the Japanese vintage bound Tele, and also I sold one of my deluxe reverbs. I sold the 67, and so I still have the 65. But when I told a friend of mine that I'd sold one of my deluxes, he said, "You really put a ring on the finger on this guitar, didn't you?" And I said, "Yeah, that really is a commitment when I get rid of a blackface deluxe reverb." So again, I still have one, but I don't have two anymore. So yeah, so there were sacrifices made. You know, 3 guitars and an amp had to be sold to get this guitar. But I'm very happy with it, and yeah, I've always, you know, wanted to have a, you know, an old pre-CBS Tele, and you know, kind of, you know, I said in my, you know, my vintage video, there's something about the old wood. There's something about how hard these necks get, and they're almost like, you know, fossilized wood, and they just have a lot of ping to them, and yeah, love it. All right, guys. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this. You know, we're talking about the you know, the rehabbing of this guitar, and again, thanks to Dan and Val and Ron Ellis and Nick over at Glazers for the amazing work they did on this killer guitar. All right, guys. Hope you have a great week. See you next time. Bye-bye.